Welcome, kids, to Mr. Jim's Theater Club. As you probably know, you've come here to participate in this year's December show. Unless you just came here for the food. In which case, I lied. There is none. Moving on. I'm sure you're all wondering what show we'll be doing this December. Well, let me tell you, we ain't doing no Frosty the Schmo-Man. Let's see a show of hands. How many of you have heard of the Christmas Truce of 1914? Wow, none of you. Well, you tell your teacher that there's more to history than Egypt. As you may have guessed, the Christmas Truce of 1914 is what we'll be performing this December. Don't look so disappointed. I actually wrote a paper on this in college, and my thesis is on the board. Let's take a look, shall we? During World War I, German and British soldiers on the Western Front disobeyed the direct orders of their government and held a ceasefire to celebrate Christmas. Through this act of goodwill, the soldiers of the most devastating war in history showed that humanity triumphs over duty. You know, that is actually a pretty good enough reason to be doing the play this December. You've got tragedy, triumph, of course, Christmas. What more could you ask for? Now, before I begin to teach you the show, let me set you in some historical context of sorts. The year is 1914. The date, June 28th. Paper came in today, huh? It says right here, today, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated by Gavrilo Princip. Darn, I can't read this. Anyway, it was some attempt to break off Austria-Hungary's South Slav provinces. Political stuff. Not sure what this assassination will mean in the long run, but probably ain't much. Wrong, as it turns out, that assassination, which occurred in the city of Sarajevo in Bosnia, would affect the whole world. Jump to August 12th of the same year. A war's begun, huh? It says right here. Following the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, Germany declares war on France. Now, due to national alliances, Britain declares war on Austria-Hungary. Man, it says the nations have fallen down like dominoes. Honey, what you making for dinner? I'm sure you kids have a lot of questions. First off, she was making chicken for dinner. But what you need to know is this. World War I has begun. Now, our play takes place on the Christmas of 1914, but our opening scene takes place a little bit before that, on December 7th, to be precise. As the war continues much longer than expected, Pope Benedict XV gives a speech concerning the upcoming Christmas for soldiers on the Western Front. A new commandment I give unto thee, that we love one another. As the theologian Francis Fenelon once stated, all wars are civil wars because all men are brothers. So let us not war amongst our brothers on the night that our God was born. That the guns may fall silent, at least upon the night the angels sang. So how did the generals respond to this Pope's proposition of peace on Christmas? Well, the next scene of our play answers that question, and it takes place on the Western Front of the war, where British Field Marshal Sir John French orders his soldiers to not engage in any form of a ceasefire. I know you heard the Pope's words, and I am not unaware of its consequences. I have seen your unofficial ceasefires during mealtimes, and I have seen the occasional scout ignore each other when on patrol. There is no such thing as live and let live, and there will certainly be none of that on Christmas Day. The enemy cannot and will not be trusted, and I will not put our victory in this war on the line so you can have a good smoke with the Germans. This has been your warning. Any who dare cross no man's land will be shot, whether that be now or on Christmas morn. And so our play nears its climax. Christmas is on the horizon, but our men are forbade any form of celebration. This is a truly tragic situation, but it is in this time that we see a victory that redefines history. You see, during the hopeless month of December, our men had to endure frigid weather conditions, aggravated by wet and muddy trenches. But then, on December 24th, 1914, Christmas Eve, our men receive letters from home, and it makes them wish for something, some essence of love and goodwill. And what better time for goodwill than Christmas Day? Well, if you're a soggy soldier on the Western Front, and you're a nation that's forbade you any form of celebration for threat of court-martials, there's probably a better time. So what happened on Christmas Day, 1914? Well, don't take my word for it. We actually have a first-hand account. Dear Mother, this is your son, Henry Williamson. It's December 26th, and you'll never guess what happened yesterday. I am writing from the trenches. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. In my mouth is a pipe presented by the Princess Mary. And the pipe is tobacco. Of course, you say. But wait, in the pipe is German tobacco. Ha, you say. From a prisoner, or found in a captured trench, no doubt. Oh dear no, it's from a German soldier. On Xmas Eve, both armies sang carols and cheered, and there was very little firing. The Germans called to our men to come fetch a cigar, and our men told them, "Come into us." Of course, this went on for some time, until Tommy crept out and stood between the trenches, and immediately a Saxon came to meet him. They shook hands and laughed, and then 16 Germans came out. And thus ice was broken, and Christmas happened. With love, your son. And thus was the Christmas truce of 1914. Men crossed no man's land and traded tobacco and chocolate and even played a game of soccer. German forces expressed as much gratitude from this event as we heard from the British. This may not seem like much, but try to understand the significance of this event. In spite of all the tragic events surrounding these soldiers, they triumphed over it all and defied their nation's orders. Immediately after that, Christmas war morale was boosted. The war itself would continue for several more years until the end of 1918. But the men that experienced the ceasefire of 1914 gained strength to keep fighting for the love they would receive at home, the love they felt that Christmas Day. And in the long run, they showed that wars are ultimately fought by the individual. Soldiers are capable of making decisions, and above all, these brave men proved that we can have peace if we're willing to take actions and risks for it. Because when it comes down to it all wars are civil wars because all men are brothers. And if we can acknowledge that, we can see that humanity truly can triumph over tragedy. You know, the real tragedy is that you kids are the ones chosen to get this message across. If I was smart, I would have done this whole play about the Christmas truce by myself. Anyway, rehearsals will be every day after school. That is all.